Story 1. People who don't use turn signals are very frustrating. People who forget to turn on their vehicle lights at or after dusk while driving are also frustrating. The lack of use of the indicator light, also known as the turn signal, is common among most people in metro cities I have driven in. I believe the majority are not bothered by this since they do not use their indicator or turn signal properly or at all. For those driving with only running lights on, it is difficult to see you clearly unless you brake suddenly. Story 2. Nowadays, every car chimes and honks and beeps multiple times when people are unlocking, locking, getting in or out, or opening and closing the tailgate. Multiply that by 20 to 30 cars parked on a street, and there is a non-stop, mildly annoying series of sounds. I think some people are obsessive-compulsive or paranoid and do this several times in a row as well. Story 3. The sound of people brushing their teeth. I know it is necessary, but the wet scrubbing noise makes my skin crawl. My roommate brushes her teeth with the bathroom door open, so I have to put on headphones to drown it out. Story 4. People stopping in public spaces at choke points to stop and chat. Stop and chat by all means, but move to the side of the pavement or doorway so others can continue on. Story 5. Using the phone speaker in public. I have no idea why people want to share a private conversation in public. This should not be normalized, but sadly it is. Story 6. People who sit in their parked cars with the headlights on. Please turn them off unless you are using them to help someone see. Alternatively, use the parking lights only. Story 7. When people equally fill the space of walking paths, if there is one person, they walk right in the center. Two people will walk an equal distance from each other, so there is just enough space to pass them on either side. It is extremely annoying when running on the sidewalk and having to stop and say, "Excuse me," several times or shove past them. This always happens on somewhat narrow paths. Just leave room for other people to pass you. Story 8. Please stop posting the word "this" as a comment. It adds no value. I am aware that someone will say it. Story 9. Cell phone usage while at restaurants. Put your phone away. Engage with others, check the menu, and look at the decor. Relax. It will still be there in an hour. Story 10. Religion. I cannot understand why such a high percentage of people in the world follow religion. Story 11. People who drive too closely behind you on the freeway, expecting you to move instead of passing or slowing down. Story 12. People leaving a wet dish rag or sponge in the kitchen sink for days, allowing bacteria colonies to grow and continually spread onto other items as they are used. Story 13. When people interrupt me. Growing up, my mother would interrupt me all the time. She would ask me a question and then interrupt me while I was answering. This gave me a complex, making me feel like I needed to speak as quickly as possible before everyone stopped paying attention. Story 14. People calling my name more than 3 times has bothered me since I was a child. When someone repeatedly says the same thing, it becomes annoying. I have 3 legal names and multiple nicknames. You can use any of them, but please do not say the same name multiple times within 5 minutes or less. Story 15. Not clearing your last 1 second off the microwave. Driving in the passing lane when you are not passing. Story 16. Breathing into the phone receiver makes me want to disconnect the call as soon as possible, but that could be misophonia. Story 17. People spitting on the ground as they walk past others. People leaving an abandoned shopping cart in the parking lot near other cars. Story 18. People on their phones at the front of the line at a red light cause chaos when 2 lanes are moving immediately and 1 is not. Even worse when it is a turning lane. Story 19. Listening to music on your speakerphone in public spaces, and even in private settings, can be disruptive. I was in a supermarket, and a couple was walking around listening to music while browsing the products during their personal shopping experience at Vaughn's. Story 20. When people say "bless you" to me when I sneeze, especially after every sneeze, it feels very irrational. I rarely say anything to anyone about it, but I hate it. To clarify, when I say it's irrational, I mean my distaste for hearing "bless you," not other people saying it. Other people are the rational ones in this case. Story 21. Self-checkout machines that alert you as if you are stealing when you are simply breathing near the scanner. Story 22. Seeing half-finished drinks or food left outside as litter bothers me. Litter annoys me, but partially finished drinks and half-eaten sandwiches frustrate me even more. It is wasted food. Why don't people finish what they paid good money to buy? Story 23. As a woman, I hate it when other women call me sweetie or hun. Feels so condescending. There is no way to call them out without looking like a complete jerk. It is my biggest pet peeve that no one seems to care about. Story 24. Saying no offense, and then saying something offensive is not a defense. Just like saying you are not an a-hole does not mean you are not one. Story 25. When baby boomers lick their finger before handing someone cash, I don't care if your hands are dry. Adults don't solve problems with saliva. It is disgusting. Squeeze the bills together and separate them. Utilize your motor skills. You are not a toddler. Story 26. Someone pushing the door close button on an elevator. Are you really in that much of a hurry? Or is this about trying to gain some kind of control you feel you need? Most of the time, I think the door close button is not even connected to anything and makes no difference. It is an insignificant event that almost nobody cares about, but it annoys me. Story 27. IT specialist here. Throwing unwrapped cords or cables into a drawer or box. Do you want a rat's nest? Because that is how you get a rat's nest. Story 28. Today is Monday. When people say they will be going out of town next Friday, they actually mean this Friday. Next Friday would be a week from Friday. Story 29. The loud ice cream truck comes 4 times a day in my neighborhood blasting. It's a small world after all. Story 30. People who walk without fully lifting their feet produce the sound of lazy shoes scraping the sidewalk. I will switch sides of the street because it is so grating. Story 31. Lack of casual communication in friendships. I am not saying we have to text every day, but if you only text me first when something is going wrong in your life, that is not acceptable. Story 32. People yawning and not covering their mouths, as if they just rolled out of a cave. The rest of us do not need to see the inside of your mouth. Story 33. When people say things like low-key constantly and are nearly always ironic or dismissive of themselves in their own language, it can be off-putting. A few times is fine, but when you are unable to speak with real intent, it makes me feel like you do not even care about what you do or say. So why should I? Story 34. People with misophonia who take personal offense at things people must do to survive. People have to eat, drink, and breathe to live. You can learn meditation and wear headphones. Story 35. When people crack their knuckles, I do not know why, but it drives me nuts. It is like nails on a chalkboard to me. Story 36. When people drag their feet while walking, just pick them up. You are not a zombie. I know it is a small thing, and most people probably do not even notice it, but once I hear that slow shuffle on the floor, I cannot unhear it. It instantly triggers my inner rage. Bonus points if they are wearing flip-flops. Why is this socially acceptable? Story 37. Horrible, absolutely rancid breath. I do not know how people around me tolerate this when interacting with such individuals. Story 38. People who talk too loud. Learn to use your indoor voice. I am right next to you. Why do you have to shout? Story 39. Verbal redundancy is irritating to me when people say result, parts, or morning. Story 40. People who are capable of clearing their throat of mucus or whatever is in there but choose not to and keep talking, and I can hear it in their voice. Story 41. Littering. Seriously, North America is mostly incredible in appearance, yet some people choose to throw trash across it. Very tragic. Story 42. Music coming from a phone speaker is not only common in public places, but also at private gatherings when someone says, "Check out this song." Listening to phone audio feels like you are electrocuting my eardrums, and we are experiencing the absolute worst of the mix right now. How is this not a completely miserable experience for you? Story 43. I work in retail. When the entire extended family has to come in, it drives me nuts. There is no reason for more than 8 people to have to come with you. Story 44. When people spell plurals with an apostrophe and use its and whose instead of its and whose. I dislike the unnecessary genitive apostrophe, which originated from a misunderstanding and has damaged English spelling. Also, when people write phrases like must have instead of must have. Story 45. Slow walkers in the middle of a path or shopping center. And the same goes for slow drivers, especially those who quickly pull out in front of you only to slow down. Also, parents making their children order their own food. I understand why they do it, but in the middle of a rush, children can get flustered, and it is hard to be patient, making the experience a little more uncomfortable and difficult for everyone. If it is a quiet day, I would love to take the time, but not when there are 5 other people waiting behind you. Story 46. When people talk about their toddlers and kids using phrases like, he's being difficult today, or he's acting out today, do not blame the children for poor parenting. Story 47. Sure, most people do not like advertisements, but they are mostly minor annoyances. I, however, absolutely hate advertisements, specifically internet, including streaming ones. So much so that I have been without Netflix, Hulu, and Disney Plus for the past 2 years. If I am interested in watching something from those sites, I do so by other means. Modern advertisements are revolting because they remind me of every single cyberpunk dystopia book, movie, and video game I have ever encountered, and not in a good way. I challenge anyone who reads this to count how many advertisements are forced on them daily on Reddit, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube if they have not already blocked them. It is disgusting how companies treat people. It is literal brainwashing for consumerism. Story 48. People's loud chewing and drinking noises, especially gulping noises when swallowing, just hit a nerve. It now actually has a diagnosis, but as mentioned, it doesn't bother most people except 2 of my 3 children who are like me. Story 49. When having a debate with someone, their sources are always, well, some people say, or I heard. It is as if nobody actually said that. You made it up. Story 50. People are taking selfies everywhere and recording videos of themselves working out at the gym. I changed gyms because of this. I don't care if you are creating content. I am there to complete my workout too. Story 51. People, especially in business settings, often say going forward. The use of future tense already indicates going forward. Saying going forward is a redundant attempt by the speaker to sound more active than they actually are. Story 52. Leaving your cart in the middle of the aisle so nobody in the crowded store can get by while you stare blankly at a wall of hot sauce. You mild person. Story 53. Calling Squid Games is incorrect. It is not the Olympics. They are not there to participate in the 25th annual Squid Game. Story 54. Multiple question marks or exclamation points. Writing like that too much reads as completely unhinged. Story 55. Saying bless you to people who sneeze, especially if it happens several times, from a distance or to a stranger. Story 56. People ask if there is something extremely annoying that others do not find annoying. Just kidding, I could not help myself. Story 57. Those memorial decals people put on vehicles. Like, Brandy Hall 2018 to 2020 Heaven got a new angel. Lady, do you have a deceased toddler in your trunk? Story 58. Use of the word amazing. I love coffee, but coffee will never be amazing. It is relatively new in usage and has devalued the meaning of the word. I feel as though you should be able to recall every truly amazing sight, song, art piece, or experience of your life. It is not a smoothie. Story 59. People overuse the word honestly. If you usually start your sentences with it, the rest of your sentences may seem untrue. Story 60. This is similar to the old man yells at cloud meme, but when someone finishes a popular movie or TV show for the first time and creates a thread to say they liked it. No one else seems to care, but it annoys me greatly. There is no new insight or perspective, just that thing that many people like. I like it too. Indulge me by reposting the same comments about it for the 100th time. Story 61. Music in stores. Do you like that? Does hearing Ed Sheeran and Taylor Swift in Walmart make your day? Try hearing it 8 hours a day every day. Even good music will quickly become ruined when you work in a place that plays it constantly. Stores do not play good music. They play some of the worst songs ever written, like Riptide and Come On Eileen. Story 62. People who use poor spelling and grammar often excuse themselves by saying that languages are meant to change and evolve over time. However, that does not mean they should be simplified to the point of losing clarity. Story 63. Debut. Pronounced correctly as debut, not debut. It is pronounced mayor, not mare. TV reporters in New Zealand. Story 64. Sound of fingernails scraping paper, cardboard, metal, and other surfaces. It hurts my ears and makes me cringe every time. Story 65. Public toilet that flushes automatically. I hate being near a flushing toilet when the seat is up because of fecal particles. There are many urine and fecal particles flying in the air when toilets flush, and automatic toilets do not give you time to step away, barely giving you time to stand up. Story 66. When people point out something unusual in response to a photo or video using this format, I dislike it. Seems whiny and annoying. Story 67. People who sniffle constantly. Just blow your nose, Jesus Christ. I have an issue with intermittent, sudden noises in general, but this one really bothers me. Story 68. People standing next to me while I am sitting. I do not know why, but my brain goes crazy, and I keep thinking, sit down, please. Story 69. Talking on the phone in a public place with the speaker on applies to watching YouTube videos. This is surprisingly common on public transport these days. Story 70. People who unironically fake laugh. The fake laughs are always loud and cartoonish. It is okay not to find things funny. Story 71. Using assumptions instead of factual knowledge, then building upon those same assumptions, especially when gaining that knowledge is not a difficult or energy-consuming action. You would rather spend a lot of energy assuming and then trying to make sense of it, instead of using very little energy to actually reach the destination. Story 72. I respond as fast as I can, as I would want to be responded to or called back. It drives me nuts when my response is not received the way I am. However, I am also aware that I am just being impatient. Story 73. People who step into public spaces with no awareness or consideration of others. They block an entire aisle while taking their time browsing. They block a doorway while finishing a conversation. They make no effort to step aside if they see someone passing down the same narrow street. It is insufferable, and being preoccupied is not a defense. If you enter a public space, you cannot conduct yourself as if you are the only person in existence. I see it every day. Story 74. You wouldn't use myself unless you are already the subject of the sentence. Incorrect example. If you have any questions, please see myself. Correct example. If you have any questions, please see me. Incorrect example. I'll see me out. Correct example. I'll see myself out. Story 75. I see quite a few people mentioning driving with no headlights after dark, but what about people driving with their high beams on? It is literally blinding. If it is not them, it is people who have overly bright headlights. Story 76. Big trucks on my roads, in parking lots, and parked on the side of the road. For seated cabin with a clean bed for a family of 3, serving as your primary family activities vehicle and your commuter to work. Just existing. Story 77. If you take the last slice of pizza from the box, either throw it away or leave the box open to make it obvious that no more pizza is available. Story 78. People who feel the need to bring their entire 3 generations of family to grab a few items at a store, then stand there and take up an entire aisle gawking together. This is a grocery store, not Disneyland or the Louvre. Story 79. Cracking bones. Cannot stand it. It sounds so gross. If you are sitting next to me and you start cracking your fingers, I will just walk out of the room. Story 80. People who speak to me very loudly without any reason. I am just next to you. You do not need to go full volume. Story 81. Seeing people driving cars on the interstate at more than 70 miles per hour, and obviously using a cell phone. I try to stay far away from them. Story 82. I do not like things on my skin at all. Lotions, medicine, soap, sunscreen, face painting, chapstick. I have gotten better about it, but when I was a child, it was basically a phobia. Story 83. I really dislike it when someone uses the wink emoji. This one comes across as I know it all and smug. Maybe I am a weird guy, but I get actively annoyed when I am texting someone and they reply with something and then that text. Recently, a friend of mine said, "It's not weird at all," and I just had to readjust. Story 84. My neighbors are slamming their car doors. They come and go frequently and slam their car doors so hard I would swear they are trying to shatter the window glass. Story 85. I love when people walk at the speed of existential dread right in front of me. It really gives me time to reflect on all my life choices while debating running them over. Story 86. The slightest bit of grit or dirt on a floor when I am in bare feet. Sand, gravel, and similar materials when I am barefoot outside do not bother me. However, an unswept floor irritates me greatly. Story 87. Phone ringing or talking on speaker in a restaurant. I do not want to hear someone else's conversation like that. Story 88. When someone walks very slowly right in front of me on the sidewalk and refuses to move aside, it feels like they know exactly how to trigger your inner anger, even though everyone else just walks at a normal pace. Story 89. When people leave a single item in the box instead of just taking it out and discarding the box. Story 90. Pettiness infuriates me, but it is how many people express themselves without violence or direct conflict. Story 91. Watching TikTok videos at a loud volume near other people who need to concentrate. Story 92. Pets, pet ownership, human behavior toward domesticated species, and humans' disregard for people who do not necessarily need to live with animals to admire or love them. Story 93. People who stop abruptly to chat in the middle of the supermarket and then give dirty looks when you have to walk around them. This happened to me a few times when I was pushing my grandmother in her wheelchair. Story 94. People stopping to chat in the middle of the aisle in Costco. People on phones as they are grocery shopping and do not notice the line behind them. Story 95. Unskippable YouTube advertisements with fake countdowns. Do not lie to me and say 5 seconds remaining when it is clearly a full trailer for a movie I will never watch. Story 96. Strangers who start talking to me randomly at the store, making comments on what I am doing or hearing me say something and chiming in. I really hate older people who talk to my kids and try to touch them. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.